How you doing,
Hello
Gary?
again. Hello, Andy. I was saying hello to our viewer there.
We've got more than one viewer tonight, Gary.
It's broadcasting etiquette.
Broadcasting etiquette. Well, exactly. Hello to all our viewers. I was just having a wee
private. Viewer. It's a personal thing, Andy. It's a personal experience. You speak to the viewer because they're not all in a room together.
Have you been swatting up on this stuff, Gary?
I got a bit of training. So good evening to you, our viewer.
Oh, I get it. That's clever, Gary. I'll need to catch up. Hello, you. It's good to see you again.
It's like sending an email. You ever got an email and it says, "Hello, everyone," and you're going, "It's only me. It's reading it." It's that type of thing.
Aye. I get where you're coming from, Gary. You've not been taking that training with me, though. Have you been moonlighting somewhere else?
I went on a media training course. A Scott Vex SWAT up.
A Scott Vex SWAT up. So we've got some folks in tonight. It's wonderful to see you all again. All the social media is coming in. Terry, it's bath time for Terry.
Bath time for Terry. Evening, Terry. The water's cooling. Bubbles are frothing.
Oh dear. No tubes and tube chat, apparently, Gary.
No, no tubes on the tube chat. How's Paul doing anyway? I hope you're all right.
He posted up an eye. He's not wearing the mascara anymore. He's looking kind of back to normal again.
That's cool. I was thinking of Paul earlier when I seen the news and the gas thing going on. I just wondered if that's affected you at all, Paul. Let us know.
What's that? What's the gas thing?
The gas engineers have all been.
Oh, they've been striking.
They've been striking and sacked and reapplying for jobs and changing the contracts and all that sort of stuff. Hopefully it's not affected, Paul, but if it has, we're behind you.
As always, good to see all of our regular faces in. There's Liz getting a dig in.
Well, we've had, Andy, 51 weeks and we've not looked any different.
Not at all. Well, maybe the beard's a little bit greyer, Gary, but 51 weeks, you're quite right. This is nearly a year's worth of chat show, folks.
Yeah, now, if you go by weeks, it's next week, but I don't go by weeks. Something must have happened with the Caesarean calendar. Is it Caesarean? Right. I've probably got that wrong.
Aye, that's when the Caesar changed it to input all his pals into it. So he got a whole month. July was for Julius Caesar, wasn't it?
That's right. Who was Oct? Dr. Oct was October.
Dr. Octopus.
It became Marvel characters or whatever. But week 52 next week is not our birthday. It's not a year's worth of chat show. It's in 5th of May or something like that is our anniversary. Is the annual commemoration of chat show.
We don't have to get dressed up or anything like that, Gary, do we? The annual Memorial Day of Chat Show.
We can ask our audience, we can ask the viewer, do you want us to dress for a birthday party? Oh no. Oh no.
Gary, what are you even suggesting?
I know, cat out of the bag. With the birthday party with balloons and streamers and
aye, because although tonight is episode 51, folks, I think we had a couple of weeks where we had a couple of doublers. We had 1 week where we unfortunately we advertised, but we didn't broadcast because something came up. We then caught up on the Friday the 13th special, and that's kind of knocked our diaries out. So what is the annual? What was the date of first chat show, Gary?
5th of May, there or thereabouts. So 5th of May is this year is our anniversary. It's the day before the election. It's planned to be the chat-a-thon, but we need to get our act together if we're having it.
We need to get that planned out. Caroline Gormley, remembering her chat show debut, actually, because Caroline was our first guest along with the Provost.
She come on and she never told us anything because she wasn't allowed.
That's right. She had just started her bog roll painting. It's all over the papers this week as well.
She'll need to come on and tell us about the things she couldn't tell us about before. Maybe she'll come on her birthday show.
Aye.
Nice,
So we're being encouraged here, Gary. We're being encouraged by the audience here to get dressed up.
Right. Have we got to go and hire one?
Jane, I'm not putting that up.
Yeah. So welcome to our 51st Paisley Community Chat Show. Officially the longest running chat show ever, anywhere.
Anywhere in the history of Paisley Community Chat Shows. Are you well, Gary, this week?
I'm all right, Andy. Are you okay?
I'm doing fine, but folks, I got vaccinated yesterday. I went to the Donald Dewar Centre, apparently up in somewhere north of Glasgow, and a wee woman had a wee bit of a chat with me, asked me a few questions, put the needle in, and sent me away, and that was it. Done.
Does that mean you can go out for 70% of the time?
I can only 70% of me can go out, Gary.
Oh, what? Then you left leg in, your left leg out.
Something like that. But I'm vaccinated. I get the AstraZeneca, so that
can you beat the AstraZeneca? It's the only one to go for.
It was absolutely no bother at all, and I'm feeling fine. Although my 5G service, Gary, is fantastic. There'll be no problems with that now. I've been upgraded.
Andy, you said you got the AstraZeneca there as if you had a choice. Did you got there and they went, sir?
No, it's not a buffet. You just basically we're giving you the AstraZeneca today, and you're like, no bother, and you just
they take you through all this stuff, and then you go, so you want a jab again? You're like, oh, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here
for. But no, fair play to again, all the health workers across, all the care workers across the last 12 months. I mean, myself and Gary have the pleasure of spending an hour and a half of our time in your company, but you think of the folk that have been absolutely busting a gut, and all the medical professionals and all the scientists and all the folk involved in logistics to get vaccines rolled out and all that sort of stuff. It's been a Herculean effort, and it's to be commended.
That's quite good. That's quite good, isn't it?
The Vauxhall AstraZeneca.
Vauxhall AstraZeneca. I think we used to have one of them. It was green. They got for us to.
Ah, dear. So that's me. I've been upgraded. I've had my jab one of. Oh, sorry, I said jab. It's a jag in Scotland. It's a jag.
It's totally a jag.
It's absolutely a jag. It's never a jab.
Anyway, we're prattling on. Our viewer is wondering what's caught our eye.
Oh dear, what has caught our eye tonight? Who was asking that? That must be a usual viewer that's been asking the question.
Nobody. I'm pushing it on.
All right, go on then, Gary.
I'm pushing the show. I'm pushing the envelope. The show needs to move. The show needs to progress. And
you're pushing it, Gary.
Come on.
Right,
as we know, we could prattle on for 50 minutes. And we've got guests.
We do a great job.
Thank you. Right, so what has caught your eye, Andrew?
Oh, am I up first tonight? Oh my goodness. Well, a couple of things caught my eye this week.
Go for the first one. What was the first one that caught your eye, Andrew?
Well, you and I both grew up in Hunter Hill.
No, me.
Well, you grew up in Thrushcraigs, and then you upgraded and moved to Hunter Hill later on, and we both grew up in Marnock Terrace. Well, I grew up in Marnock Terrace. You moved to Marnock Terrace, but you remember just round the corner that if you were walking between the back end of Toad's Home Road and down towards Hawkhead, you would take the Jenny's Well lane.
With all the sticky willies.
If that's what you saw down there, Gary, that's you can get therapy for that type of stuff. But what I caught my eye, and I think it was Fred McNeil that posted this up, and they made the centre spread all of the volunteers, the friends of Jenny's Well, who have been down there on their own spare time volunteering to tidy up and make that a wonderful place in our community. So to all the folks that were involved, and I'm sure the picture only shows a few of them, Gary, but to all the folks involved, thank you so much for going down and tidying up and making that nature reserve down at the back of Jenny's Well just such a wonderful place to visit.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Annette's been down there actually. Annette, who comes on later on with Question of the Week. Annette went down and did a wee bit of tidying up down there.
Yes, she did.
The call, and then a wee while later, she posted up on the Facebook about how disappointed and upset she was about some of it being vandalised and set on fire. So we'll maybe talk about that later on. Very topical, Andrew.
Maybe talk about that a little bit later on. And the other thing that caught my eye this week, Gary, and there's been a lot of great photography in Paisley. We always like to talk about Paisley because I guess as we've all been pretty much stuck in our homes, we don't get out there. And there's been some brilliant folk taking some great drone footage. Buddy drone flights have been out flying their drones about the place, taking some great images. We've had Alan Gilmer, who was a guest on the show a couple of weeks back. Alan's been hanging out in windy. Alan, for God's sake, be safe, Alan, when you're hanging out the window. You're taking marvellous photographs, but just make sure you're hooked on or something, Alan. But let me just get this chap's name. This was a guy called Greg James.
Yes.
I'm guessing he must have got a drone up to take this image, but this is Paisley's famous or infamous alien gargoyle.
Imagine that, Andy. Imagine the spaceman coming down and putting that in our abbey.
Well, exactly. How old's the abbey, Gary? Is it, it's nearly a century old.
1143.
1143, and we have that alien gargoyle dating back, my goodness knows how long it dates back, winky face, dating back to that period of time, the alien gargoyle. I thought that was smashing, Gary.
Oh, that's a good one. I didn't realise that was a drone picture.
Well, he must have had a big selfie stick if it wasn't on a drone, Gary.
It might be a window cleaner. What were they brushes?
Aye.
Anyway, talking about pictures.
What's caught your eye this week, Gary?
I took a picture today. And I want to bring some of our experiences to the viewer. And I'm going to ask if anyone knows where this is. Now, I know where this is because I took the picture. And I think this is Paisley's hidden gem of a park.
Right.
It's a magnificent space, and I think with a bit of tender love and care and just a tiny, tiny wee bit of attention, it could be an amazing space. It is absolutely, truly wonderful.
Go on then, Gary. Or are we leaving it up to the audience to tell us, our viewer to tell us where?
Well, the viewer has jumped straight in, and yes, it is. It's in Fergusley Gardens. So you go right down as if you're going out towards Johnson.
Right.
And on your right-hand side, there's a wee gate through there. Just before you get to, where would you get? It used to be the Park Bar. There's a nursery in the corner.
Right.
You go through that wee gate, and in there is that.
Wow.
And you go up the back, and you see up the back of the trees.
Right.
That's all grass up there. And there's a view out towards Ben Lomond.
Sticky Willies up there as well, Gary.
I didn't hang about long enough, Andy, but it's a fantastic park. A fantastic park.
That's amazing. That's actually a brilliant photograph, and lots of comments and lots of right answers there. I guess that's someplace that I've never been, because when I was doing your editing on your photograph, Gary, I had to straighten it up. The one you sent me was a wee bit wonky.
Depends what your perspective is. And my photographer's eye,
that looks straight.
Kept it straight in the bottom. But your photographer's eye took your eye to the top bit.
Well, I straightened it up along the line of the pond. So that's kind of where the pond meets the grass. That's where I straightened it up along. But
the pond had a curve on it. It was a kind of elliptical. So, and you, Cardinal Sin, Andy, see if I was a real photographer, I'd have you up to the Photographers Union. You're no meant to tamper with photographs.
Oh, you know, dear.
No meant to tamper with the photographs.
Oh, Gary, you'll
just as well that I'm not too bothered about it. Tampering with my photos. Anyway, so that's where I was today. Went for a wee break. Went for a wee half hour. Went on a drive, a fly drive, like we call it. So I went a wee drive, parked up and a wee walk around the park, sat on the steps, watched the swans chase these other birds as if get out my pond type of thing. So that was all going on. Really, really nice park. Recommend it if you're at a loose end. Lovely day like today. Nice walk around the park.
Now, apparently, Gary, there's the witch's grave up the back of the park.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I'm not going back there.
There we go. There we go.
Brilliant park.
Evening, Elizabeth. Lots of.
There you go, Andy. Didn't need to touch it. There's nothing wrong with my picture. Anyway, so that caught my eye today in a wee bit of a journey around the town, and the time-honoured tradition, the Food and Drink Festival has caught my eye. I'm, without telling anyone, I'm doing something different every week. It's catching my eye. We would have probably needed to start about 3 months ago to get everything in, but this one caught my eye. It's the Bungalow Online Cocktail Party, Andrew.
Oh.
Yeah. So on Saturday, the 24th of April at 8 p.m, tune in for guests Bungalow. I can't read that now. Can you read that?
I can. For guests Gantry, the Glennifer, and the Brown Bull making your favourite cocktails and some new ones online.
There you go.
Music from the Well Happy Band, and we know who they are because they've been on the show. John Rush. The wonderful vegan leather. We'll need to get the vegan leather onto the show, Gary, because they're fab. Scaladonia.
Ska Magic.
And Tom Maguire and the Brassels, who obviously, as you all know by now, did the theme tune for the Paisley Community Trust Chat Show.
Yeah.
Drinks.
And they're one of your favourites, Andy? One of your favourite
They
bands?
are. I do like Tom Maguire and the Brassels. Drinks, Woo Woo, Capital 26, that looks like, or Cocktail 26 maybe. Pawn Star Martini, Crunchy Old Fashioned Espresso Martini, Mojito, Rebel Girl, and Loaded. That sounds like a fairly good night in, Gary.
That's a look forward to a great night in. How times have changed.
And how do you go about buying that, Gary?
I don't know. I think if you went on to the Bungalow's Facebook page and
you
clicked
get all the
on
information.
it, all the information will be there. Just click on it. I think you can get the cocktails sent out to you. So you've got a week or so to go. Is that right? You've got a week or so to go. Saturday the 24th of April, 8 p.m. And we'll probably highlight another Paisley's Food and Drink highlight next Wednesday evening.
But there's tons on, Gary, which is fantastic as always.
So that another thing caught my eye, Andy, which is quite topical.
Go on.
Leading on to tonight's answer to question of the week, something just popped up in social media.
Right.
And I'm hoping that this is real. I really hope that's real, and someone has put that on a billboard. Land acquired a residential development of apartments and housings. To view a soulless, overpriced orange box, call. Somebody's fuzzed that out. Andy, you messing with my pictures?
I did it again, Gary, because the brand name of the housing developer was up the top, and I had to fuzz it out just in case we get into trouble.
What are they going to do? We've not got anything.
Well, I wouldn't want to get it shut down after our 51st episode.
I see the chat show guys. They stole something for social media and said it was us. But erasing history to maximise profit. What a strapline! I'm sure Annette will have something to say about that later on when you get to answering questions of the week. But I thought that was fantastic. Who is that brand down anywhere there?
I can't.
It's all fuzzy.
I wouldn't be for me to say, Gary. It wouldn't be for me to say.
Is it today with Sweeties?
Sweeties?
Licorice all sorts?
No.
You sure? Look up that brand. A tangential discussion can be had.
Squint your eyes. I'm doing it to protect the chat show, Gary. We don't want any trouble. We don't want to be falling victim to the wrath of a big housing developer.
Like who?
I don't know. I couldn't give any example. Couldn't give any examples.
You're a wiser man than me. So yeah.
But that is the I guess ultimately the fear is that, in question of the week we'll talk about a little bit later on, but the fear is always that you've got these big plots, and I know that there's round the corner from me there is a big campaign on to save the green space in Paisley. And I guess the fear is that housing is a necessary requirement. I think if you were to speak to quite a few folk in Paisley, more housing, particularly social housing stock, is a big requirement. But of course, we've got to get that balance of not destroying heritage, not destroying our green spaces, and so on and so forth. But that is the fear that it's just done for maximising profits. But that's why the community, i.e., all of our viewers and ourselves in Paisley Community Trust, play such an important role, because we've got a voice. We have got a voice, and we can share your opinion, and that's what Question of the Week tends to be about. What's your views, what's your opinion, and what's your principles on something. So, really good.
And the last thing, Andy, talking about individual and collective influence, this caught my eye. It's more a statement and a call to action to all of us to think about our individual and collective influence. And it's this thing.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's come up in a number of formats in a number of different places, but this one's really, really good. Before you go queuing around the block for Starbucks, Costa, Greggs, you didn't fuzz them out. Greggs, Burger King, KFC, and McDonald's. Remember, these huge fast food companies will be fine after lockdown. We think they'll be fine. They're good companies. Spend your money with local cafes and takeaways who are fighting to stay in business every single day. Support our local economy by supporting local businesses.
Amen to that, Gary. It's so important. It's been a continual theme of the chat show all the way through since episode 1. When we can get back out there, and we know that restrictions are going to start to open up a little bit, but try and put some money into the tills of the companies that have been clinging to dear life for the last 12 months. It's been so hard on them. There are big companies out there that, as you say, Gary, can weather the storm, can take it. But it's our local businesses, our local traders that we ought to be trying to support. So if you can, choose local versus something else, then we would hope to encourage you to support your local traders. It's vital.
If we remember, Andy, we'll put that up later on.
Aye, no, that's so important, and a lot of people supporting that as well. We've got a question in already from John Hepburn. I don't know if you spotted that one, which is did you see that one? Marks and Spencer's closing. John, that is definitely a brilliant question, but it's a question probably for another chat show coming up quite soon in terms of what might be happening in the High Street. As we've spoken about before, Paisley Community Trust are we've been talking with the new owners of the Paisley Centre, and they have also acquired Marks and Spencer's, and we're very encouraged. You're showing off the merch, Gary. We're very encouraged with what they've had to say about Paisley. They're looking to invest in Paisley. They see Paisley as being an ideal area for development. What we would ask all of you, it doesn't matter what line you're in or whatever, let's try and welcome, let's try and support anyone that's looking to invest in the town. It's so vital at this particular time. So, John, we'll maybe cover that one in more detail in another show, but thanks for your question.
Yeah, great question. But moving on, Andy, I want to keep us to time. We're just about 10 minutes over, so that's not too bad. That's not bad. Tonight's show, Andy, is all about a wee tangential link to what John was saying there and what's going on in and around the town and what's coming. Tonight we're talking about, in particular, the town hall redevelopment and regeneration, the town hall project, and we'll touch on some other things. And I think it's just right timing to bring on our first guest, and welcome to Neil Watson.
Absolutely, Neil. Pressing a button just about to make you live on screen, Neil.
All right.
Hi, Neil.
Neil, how are you?
How you doing? Now get serious now, Neil.
I can put a light on. Hold on. Yeah,
Neil, that's the banter year's over. There'll be no more funnies.
I managed to get up off the floor there. I was listening in. No bother.
You're awful good, Neil. Neil, thanks so much for agreeing to come on the show this evening and talk us through all the wonderful stuff that you've been involved in and Renfrewshire Council have been involved in with regards to the town hall renovation and all the other brilliant works that's going on in the town. It's brilliant. Really looking forward to tonight's show. But I guess by way of introduction, Neil, and we always ask our guests to kind of give themselves a little bit of an overview and an introduction. Who are you? What do you do? And, a bit about your role within the council.
Right. Well, who am I? My job title is Cultural Infrastructure Projects Director. Right. I used to work for Property Services. Started as an architect, and I was a project manager. Greasy pole. Became the project director when we made a raft of jobs all together. So I kind of know that I've known the town hall for a long time. Also, like all of you, I've enjoyed the town hall over many years socially. So it was a place I knew well anyway. And I've been dying to be able to do a job like that.
Wow.
We did Renfrew Town Hall years ago. And that was quite a big success, right? And I learned so much on that job. Brilliant guys in Property Services who really know how to deal with difficult buildings, right? And learned a lot there. And then we did Johnson Town Hall. So I've been dead lucky. I've worked on just the best projects with the council. Lucky, right? I say I'm lucky. Bloody hard work, but I really enjoyed it. And actually, you get to meet all the different people that we do stuff for, which is excellent. At Johnson, for example, we did all the different services of the council, which we're going to operate there. Never mind the fact that it was a venue and a library. We could have weddings there, registrars, housing services, social work services. There was a family contact centre. See all that stuff. That's the essence of. That's the best jobs in the council. But Town Hall in Paisley, right? It was all about entertainment and facility and leisure, if you know what I mean. And so it's been even better as a project, even better. Imagine we're dealing with crown jewels here, and and I'm really lucky. I know how lucky I am, right?
Yeah. Neil, I was going to ask you, the Town Hall project in particular, I mean, it's a massive undertaking. It's a heritage asset, as it's called, and a number of listed and heritage assets in and around the town. But where does a project like that start? What's the process? What has to happen for that to be a catalyst for change?
Good. Right. See that question, right? That's kind of all the stuff I learned since I joined the council. How do you make something happen in the council, right? So very much you need to prove the value of the work, right? Now, obviously, everybody can look at Paisley Town Hall and see what a brilliant masterpiece, what a fantastic piece of architecture. We wouldn't build stuff like that now, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do you then prove that that's still viable going forward? I guess you've looked at loads of buildings. You know the difficulty we have exactly with that, transforming something. So we were lucky in Paisley. In Johnson, we couldn't transform what they had. We had to get rid of what they had and rebuild new. There wasn't enough of what had been up there since the 60s that was worth keeping. But in Paisley, I wasn't getting rid of anything that was there in Paisley. So we were lucky that it's big enough as well. It's not like Hamilton or Kirkintilloch where their town halls are great, but they're kind of small, right? Paisley's a big scale, hundreds of people in at a time. So that gave us a lot of flexibility, which is brilliant, right? How do you get a job like that off the ground? You persevere, you prove strategically that it will contribute enormously to helping the town. And I'm all about proving that now, if I'm honest. I used to joke with the guys, the hard work of all the design and everything gets us to the foot of the mountain, and then it's just the climb after that, right? So see, all during the construction period, that's when everyone else is sitting up and taking notice and getting ready for it, and I'm going to keep pushing that.
Yeah. It's just a fantastic project, and a couple of folk have already mentioned the video that you put out on social media. I think about was it about a month ago, maybe, Neil, or maybe even just as soon as I've lost all concept of time with COVID. But we've got that video lined up, Neil. So for everyone's benefit, I'm going to play this video. It's about 3 minutes, folk. But what you'll see will give you just such a wonderful insight into the amazing job that Neil and all his colleagues are undertaking with the Town Hall.
Hello. Today we're going behind the scenes at Paisley Town Hall, one of Renfrewshire's most iconic buildings. My name's Neil Watson and I'm the Cultural Infrastructure Projects Director for Renfrewshire Council. Over the last year, we've been stripping out the building for everything it doesn't need in advance of the main works starting in a few weeks' time. When we complete the building at the end of next year, we'll have a landmark entertainment venue for this area and beyond. Come with me now and I'll let you see it, hopefully, like you've never seen it before. So, this transformation project will, of course, preserve all the beautiful detail of the 19th century building that you all know and love. But in any building of this age, some parts of it, some facilities become outdated, needed replaced. So by adding 21st century facilities to this building, we are protecting its long-term future. In the main hall, as you can see, the stage has been removed. We've put back a new one, Lord, which will improve the sight lines for everybody in the room. We'll provide new sound, lighting and a new seat. We're going to increase the capacity to 1,200, so we'll attract bigger and better gigs and events. And that would be a bit tricky just now with COVID, but by the time we reopen next year, we will definitely be driving new footfall to the town day and night. One of the key features of the work is unlocking spaces that have disappeared into the background over the years. This room was the chair store and furniture store, but we're going to transform this to be the bar for the building. And you can just imagine being out on the terrace there, looking down over the riverside gardens, facing the sun with your pre-show drinks. On the other side of the building, the North Minor Hall, previously one big space, is now going to be a screening room on the ground floor and a dance studio on the upper floor. The work was planned around customer feedback, and we have a great determination to hugely improve the customer experience in the building. So we're going to have a great deal more toilets. We will have less queuing because we'll have pop-up bars all around the building as we require them. And we've put in 2 brand new lifts, which will greatly improve the accessibility for every part of the building for everyone. The work is part of a much wider investment in Paisley's historic venues by Renfrewshire Council. We have a major transformation of Paisley Museum. On the High Street we have a brand new learning and cultural hub which will include library facilities, and on New Street we're redeveloping and upgrading the Paisley Arts Centre. This is a stunning building and has been really at the heart of this town for many years. I'm really proud that the work that we are doing is going to keep it there for generations to come. We will be making more videos as the job progresses, so please follow the page for more information.
Neil, that's a fantastic video. Andy,
you're way too kind, Gary, way too kind.
One thing I noticed there as well, and I'm going to ask you about it, before I put, I put gigs on in the town hall and have done for a number of years. Before I took the chance of putting a gig on, I was actually put off by putting a gig on in the town hall because I was told that it was very poor acoustically. But when you put a gig on in the town hall and the room fills up, it's a magnificent experience. But you've been in there on your own, you could hear the echoes. Is that part of the redevelopment as well? Are you looking at sound acoustics?
We are, and in fact, we did quite a bit of testing, and it's not. It may well be that the story is it's not great, but actually, it's not bad. And in fact, some treatment and some attenuation is all it needed. And in fact, do you know what? One of the key things is making sure that you keep the sound where you want to keep it, and make sure that it reverberates properly within that space. So I guess you'll understand all that, right? But
interesting to see what you're
improving the things alone will make a big difference, you know.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Interesting to see what you're doing with the spaces that you've found. Left-hand side, looking towards the stage, it used to be the store in that corridor that was kind of unused. That'll be a slightly different dynamic at gigs because the bar was on the right-hand side. Pop-up, of course. So it's good to see that you're finding spaces, and that must be interesting coming across things.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I mean, you can hardly you see more of the kind of things you find in the video, right? So there's a bit with all old tiles and stuff. That was down in the basement before. Nobody ever saw that. But it's where the kitchens are going to be. We were going to take all that down and rebuild it. But we saw it and we thought, can we keep that? Is there a way we can work around it? So right at the very last minute, and the guys were not happy with me, but I did decide we've got to try and keep that bit because it was the last bit that potentially an extra thing we could fit in. But everywhere you look in that building, there's bits that you didn't notice before, or we have since uncovered. Right? And we're using it and we're having it. Thanks very much. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that video, I'm actually, just as we're chatting here, I'm going to try and grab one of the stills out of the video, because when you're up on the balcony and you're kind of panning up from where the stage used to be, all the way up to the roof space, just getting down and to see that space and the floor being removed and everything, it just gives such a different perspective to where, you know, what the town hall used to be. And we've all, if you've grown up in Paisley, you've been in the town hall at one point. And I can't wait to see the completion of the works. But I was going to ask a similar question to Gary about what you've been discovering as development has come on. And obviously you're saying, you know, we uncover something, we ask, can we keep it, can we retain it, can we change the plan slightly to accommodate? And that's great. Have you found anything weird and unusual, any strange discoveries, Neil, in the town hall?
Yeah, to be honest, there's been a range of probably dubious repairs carried out over the time. When we did find, you see a bit in the North Minor Hall there where all the plastic is off the walls, right? And that was because we found that it was rotten. And it was really badly rotten. And when you start taking it off, it has to all come off. And so we've done the job right, but potentially caused by a blockage, actually several stories and several feet away, blocked up over the years and soaked away gently, but always kept in place. Just nice level of saturation to keep the rot bubbling away. That kind of thing you discover all the time. But you're not finding trunks of coins or money buried under the floorboards.
Well, see, that's Gary a few weeks ago got me onto a TV show called Unforgotten, which is a detective series where they discover dead bodies. So thankfully, all the dead bodies seem to be buried out in the graveyard to the side. and you've not uncovered anything in the town hall, Neil?
No dead bodies, no, absolutely not. And to be honest, I was an architect. I can't call myself that now, but I was in the past. And it's fascinating to uncover. So you take off some paneling and you discover a door that shouldn't be there. And then you kind of work that out. What did it used to be like? How did they use it before? We found quite a lot of those situations. And we're, ironically, now going back to the way they used to use it suits us better.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of those situations, you know.
But I've been in and around the town hall, Neil. I found it quite interesting, the backstory of the town hall and the stage area in particular, and the different and the strange shapes at the stage area. And if I'm right, and you maybe put me right, was it there used to be a big organ there, a big reed organ at the back? Was that right?
There was originally in the original proposal, and a balcony as well at that end.
Yeah.
But all of that was taken out a very, very, very long time ago, and we don't know where the organ went, to be honest. Don't know. Couldn't trace it. We tried all those angles, Gary. Scrape anything. Do you know what there is? There's a carillon associated with the clock chimes, and that's a really amazing piece of equipment, right? And it's amazing to see it and to see these beautiful old antique cabinets that it's in and all that. So we We've actually just got money awarded that we're going to do a repair on that as well.
Andy told me an interesting anecdote about the clock chimes the other day.
Right.
Well, I think it was actually my daughter that told me about this, Neil, and maybe you are the very person to confirm this, but obviously we hear Paisley Town Hall clock chiming in the town, and whether it's, if it bongs once, it's 1 o'clock, 3 bongs, it's 3 o'clock. But the wee bit before the bing bong bit, right? Apparently, if you just hear the bing bong, that's 1:15. But if you hear bing bong, that's 1/2. If you hear bing bong, bing bong, that's 1:45. And then it plays the whole thing when it's the hour. So you remember what the last number of bongs were, so 3 bongs, and then if it goes bing bong, that's 3:15. I never knew that the bing bongs were relevant to the quarters of the clock.
I never knew that. You told me that, Andy, and it sound you sound like a Paisley version of Freddie Mercury at Live Aid, and we've got to repeat that back.
I'm not going to try and repeat it.
No. Oh dear!
Bing bong.
You've got to get your bing bongs right. It's really important these days. So there you go. Is
that what you're going to repair, Neil? You're repairing the cams and the mechanism for that.
Aye, and getting it, and it should be able to play a great many tunes, to be honest, which will be brilliant. See, if you want a town that is musically associated, it's got to be all types of music, including tower bells and church bells and all of that sort of thing. We're a musical town.
Will it do ska?
A bit of ska. Aye. Can you play that on the bells?
Oh well.
We did discuss that with the guys. You can hook up a laptop to it, because all you need is an interface, right, to get the mechanical bit working. So you can hook up a laptop. You can play any music.
Oh,
you can work it for any music. So.
Fantastic.
I don't like that, because it might not get offered, but I'm sure you can get it.
So maybe we'll be able to interact with the community, and maybe there'll be a new bing bong.
Well, I think there should be special bing bongs that go out on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock to maybe the Tom Maguire and the Brass Hole bing bongs. just to get it going. But somebody's put a comment in here, the Town Hall clock bells made by the same foundry as Big Ben. Now, there's another interesting fact. I did not know about that, but what interesting heritage that we've got there.
That's an interesting thing, isn't it, Andy? And now, Neil, you're staying with us tonight throughout the show, and we've got more to come in our packed programme. But I think what it's takes us nicely. We'll have an interlude. We'll have a short interlude for question of the week. If you don't mind staying with us, Neil, for more discussion about the town hall and other projects.
Absolutely. We've got a sort of, you've given a little presentation, Neil, so we're going to dig into that in more detail. But is it question of the week time, Gary?
Absolutely is, yes. Can't wait for the answer to question of the week this week.
Let's bring on Annette for question of the week.
Bing bong, bing bong.
Oh dear. Do you see what I have to put up with, Neil?
Oh dearie, how are you, Annette?
I'm well, thank you. I'm very well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So enough of our bing bong chat, Annette. It is question of the week. So quite an interesting question of the week last week, and lots of debate online. Take us through it, Annette.
Yeah, fantastic. Again, community engagement. 320 people took part in the debate and the discussion online, which was great. Lots of people talking about their connection to the building. Either their parents were there or worked there or had medical career started there. A lot of people who live around it were commenting. So just to remind everyone, the question was, is it better to retain the RAI hospital lying derelict and in further decline in the hope that it can be saved in the future, or should it be demolished to make way for a new modern accommodation and development? And the results were, we had 80% say they wanted to see it retained with the hope of it being improved back to its sort of former glory, with 20% saying demolish it for new development. So lots of discussion.
Yeah, that's an interesting response in it, and it's not one that is a surprise to me, to be honest. But I think there'll be nuances in the 80%, I would imagine, about people wanting really to get it redeveloped rather than waiting.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah, they love it. They love the facade of it. They want to keep the building as it's structured, but they fully understand that it's not in a good condition. They know that there was a lot of discussion about the developer and the owner, and they weren't happy that they've let it get to this point. There was a lot of flat owners and people that live around about it kind of annoyed at the fact that it's getting lots of wee fires and vandalised. They're having to constantly phone the police. But yeah, so just the fact that they want to save the REI for future generations. Lots of different uses of it, which was really interesting.
Yeah, I picked up on some of the debate online in it, and I think overall, again, and thank you to everyone that answered the question and also took part in the chat online. And we've always said the debate, the conversation is always very cordial, which is great to see. And there was a wee bit of kind of questioning over the phrasing of the question. And some folk felt the question was a little bit biased, and I jumped on a couple of times just to sort of explain and sort of validate why we took the angle that it was, because I think if we're really honest, and this is a dilemma that Paisley's in, this is a dilemma that anyone that you might want to consider is in. There is no one right now on the horizon with a pot of money and a magic wand that will just come in and redevelop that. I think if that was an option, do you want it all redeveloped at spick and span? It's amazing, flats, hotel, or whatever it could be. I think the majority of folk would logically say yes, that's the answer. But of course, that's not the situation that we're in right now. The situation that we're in right now is the building is owned by a third party. It's in a state of decline. And what would we want to see? Do we just want to keep our fingers crossed and hope that someone comes along or funding can be, tapped up or secured to allow redevelopment of it? Or is it time to maybe just grasp the nettle and bulldoze it? So I think the question had to reflect the reality of the situation that we're in. It's a dilemma. There's no easy choice, but the debate was really, really healthy. And like Gary, I'm not surprised that the overwhelming majority was to keep our fingers crossed and hope that something will happen. Very much like the Anchor Mills, they lay derelict for a number of years, but were eventually saved. And my goodness, could we imagine what Paisley would look like if the Anchor Mills weren't standing there? It would be a real travesty. So
yeah,
great, innit?
Yeah, so they did talk about possible funding as well, like could it be brought back into the community? Could it be a community-led regeneration? By doing that, would that give us access or give them access to more funding rather than private? So lots of great ideas and
brilliant
came out.
Yeah, it's interesting for me, and we spoke about it last week, Andy, about not wanting to look back and say, oh, it's a damn shame that thing's not there anymore, like we have a number of buildings in and around the town. It would be tragic, with particularly some of the architecture up and around the Bowling Green area with those verandas, and I know that was commented on a lot in it. They're stunning. They're absolutely stunning. And to be able to look back, let's say in 20 years, and educate our kids and grandkids about what used to be there, would be a real shame.
Yeah, we don't want to look back on just the photos in it, but that has led you to this week's question of the week, because some of the comments were about vandalism and fire and some of the concerns. So what's this week's question of the week in it?
This week's question is, again, over the recent months, there's been extremely high increase in the number of incidents, destruction, fire, vandalism, even violence. So it's just about what's really happening in our town. Rightly or wrongly, is it perceived that there's a rogue element of young people that are responsible? When this happens, does it leave us wondering why they're doing that, resorting to the vandalism and using that energy up? So the question that came out of it is, do you believe that there is an adequate provision of clubs, groups, volunteers, activities, etc., within Paisley to give young people the opportunity to direct their energy in a positive way. So do we have enough things for them to do? Once COVID's open and we can all get back to doing what we want to do, is there enough for them? Yes or no?
Yeah, and as always, Annette, the debate and the discussion and the social media content and interaction is as important as the question itself. And if the perception is that the people don't know about what there is to do, I think this is the opportunity to highlight that.
Yeah.
So let's get the comments going. Let's get the suggestions going, and please let's answer the questions directly as well.
As a mum myself, you know, I've got a 14-year-old, and I sat him down in a little bit of research to ask him what clubs does he know, and he could only name 3.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're kidding me on. And I've got a handful of them, you know, sitting here right in front of me, and he could only name 3. And I thought, I've let him down. I've not told him about all of these things, so maybe there's more communication needed.
And I think, you know, the other thing that we'd want to encourage folks is question of the week. We share it up on social media. It'll be up shortly. We'll be putting a QR code up. But what we would like to encourage, if you've got young people in your house, you know, if you've got sons or daughters, if you've got nieces or nephews or whoever it might be, if you've got a group that you're involved in that's predominantly focused at young people, please share this question of the week and ask the young people to get involved. I know we do this on Facebook, and maybe that's not the platform for young people. They're too busy on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever it might be. But if they do have a social media account and they can interact and put some comments up there, we would like to hear from the young people as well. So please encourage them to fill that in. And of course, here's that magic point of the show where I ask you to get your camera phones out. There is the magic QR code. So just put your phone up to the screen with its camera on. It'll ask you to open a SurveyMonkey link. There's the question, number 13. Just click OK and then answer yes or no to the question of the week.
I've done it.
You did it already, Gary. Don't tell us what you're not allowed to skew the votes here, but it'd be great to hear from you. Annette, as always, it's been great to have you on. A few folk were asking about our merchandise, so watch out for announcements later.
Merchandise?
What merchandise?
Got to get the plug in, Neil. Got to get the plug in. Neil, thanks so much again. Oh, sorry, Annette, thanks so much again. See you later.
Interesting as a follow-on from that, Andy. When I played football as a young guy, as a youth, and then played football, teens, as an adult, right up to I was probably 30 odd. And then after I stopped playing football, I found out that the team that I played for, that were 50 years old, disbanded.
Right.
And disbanded at the exact same time because the Paisley and District Amateur League also disbanded.
Right.
So it's symptomatic of what have we got to do with our time and our energy. That type of league, even for us adults, is gone.
Well, I mean, it'd be interesting to hear what you were up to, Neil, when you were a youngster. You know, those ages that you go through, you know, 13, 14, 15, 16, you know, those are the kind of times that you can easily get up to mischief. As I mentioned earlier on, I grew up in Hunter Hill and, you know, ran around with a group of friends I still see today. But I was very fortunate. From the age of 9, I studied and practiced Shotokan karate. So it meant that those ages, 14, 15, 16, you were at training twice a week. You had that discipline, you had that sort of respect. And thankfully, it just about managed to keep me on the safe and narrow because, you know, some of the folks I grew up with perhaps took a slightly different path in life. So, you know, having something to do as a young person is really important to give you focus and release the energy in a positive way. Neil, did you echo and chime with any of that sentiment?
I never did any martial arts, that's for sure. I could run fast, Andy. That was probably my benefit.
See, I couldn't run. That's why I had to learn karate.
Get me away from the scene of the crime. No, I'm kind of lucky, I suppose. I had a lot of pals and did stuff. Played sides, right? And just did stuff. And then even by the time I was 15 or 16, I was into running and I went to Bill Houston, done training and stuff like that. Kind of and then went to university to get drunk. So
You studied beer as well. We were talking about it last week with one of the guests on that had a degree in beer, and then everybody was commenting. So did I.
We all studied that one. Well, listen, Neil, we're going to jump into your to some of the detail on the town hall. So you can keep me right in terms of when I need to jump images here, Neil. But hopefully everyone at home can see a rather smashing architectural view of the town hall. But we'll kind of go through this slide deck, Neil, and you can tell us a little bit more in detail about the project.
Perfect. And I'll just tell you when to go. There's quite a lot of slides there, Andy, so we'll just bounce quite quickly.
We'll whiz through them.
Right. So this actually is just a shot of our model. Right. We did a full scan of the job, and we've fully 3D modelled the job. So everything that's there is modelled, all its weird shapes and odd angles, and all the beautiful detail as well, which is brilliant. So that gave us something brilliant to work from. If you go to the next slide. We worked in every corner of the building. This is the basement plan.
Right.
And most people don't ever go down there or have any reason to be anywhere near it.
Yep.
And one of the key things about the building was how much space was locked up, not being used, frankly. In the basement, there were old Victorian toilets, which I guess over many years had fallen into disrepair and misuse. They were available to be remodelled, but they're not on the same floor as the ground level. And one of our top things was accessibility. In this building, 13 different floor levels to try and find.
Really?
It's not easy to circulate around if you don't
13? Really?
Aye. Wow. And so we put the lifts at the point where all of those things started to meet, and it just so happens it's perfectly at the ends of the corridors. So what you'll see is those lifts. You can probably see them. I don't know if you can point to them, but either side of the hall, the lifts, they'll go right up through the building. Aye, that's right there, and on the other side.
Yeah.
That was one of the key solutions straight away. As soon as we could solve the circulation, we could get everybody to every place, then we could really use those places properly. In the basement, it'll be for your very biggest events, and people will use those toilets for that. But there's brilliant toilets on the ground level for everybody at all times. It just ups your capacity. We could also use much better in terms of back of house, right, and storage of stuff. Well, I'll show you what it unlocks, right? If you go to the next slide.
Neil, the toilet situation there in the town hall, does that dictate your capacity more than better use of the space?
Can I say to you, it does, but we had ample, and we knew what we could achieve in the main hall and the building overall, and we found all the spaces we need to get the toilets for that. So we kind of worked it in reverse, and it worked out, Gary. It was brilliant. So you can see the lifts there, and I don't know, it's kind of hard to look in and see that, but the lifts there in the corridors, it's higher on one side than it is on the other. Solves all the level problems, but it keeps everything on the front of house side or on the back of house side, and it's very neat in that regard. The North Minor Hall, where we've all gone to the bar, it had a suspended ceiling, quite a high one, so it felt like a big room, but it was still only taking up half the volume of that space, which previously was this enormous, really decorated room. And in fact, the bit that we were using was the rubbish bit. Right? It was the undecorated wood panel bit, hard-working, hard-duty bit. So anyway, we're going to get two rooms out of that, one over the other. And previously it never had anything above it. Now it's going to have the dance studio above it. So in there, that'll be a digital suite. We can make a box inside a box there. So it can be really enclosed, it can be really sealed, and you can do presentations. You can show screenings of films or of other material, and actually I always quite fancied it as a nightclub, although I'm not sure Ariella wanted that kind of
private entry only.
I can't help it. Wait till you see the stuff we've got for that. It looks like a brilliant room, and one where you can make a big influence over the atmosphere of it, the lighting, it's all really modern, and brilliant sound, etc. So we kind of got two rooms out of one on that side, and on the other side the chair store was there, and that made it nice and easy to put all the chairs out for when you had folk in the main hall. But that's one of the best spaces in the building. Facing south as it does, gets the sunshine, and looks down over the lovely gardens down the riverside. So we made that the bar. and we can make it work by just taking that chair storage. We're doing so much for the stage, it'll have fully lifts on the stage, which will be able to take all that chair storage down below the stage and stored underneath. And again, getting architects to do a job on the whole building means that you can move things about and you can make those strategic. It's no tinkering, right? It's wholesale changes. And
big changes.
Do those big interventions that make the big difference and unlock.
So is that Sun Terrace to the left now, Neil, at the bar area?
That's it. Well, go on to the next slide. The next slide, we're kind of scooting through the model here, right? So these all show the various improvements. The pink bits is all the bits where we're building new stuff. So all the seats are realigned. We've got slides in this, Andy, of all the spaces. That's why I'm just jumping on.
I know.
And all the work on the balcony and up in the gallery, squeezing in capacity, but it's not really squeezing because the seats are better. They're all new seats. And if you were ever in those seats, they're not the best. We're keeping a wee bit of the old bench seating right next to the stage. That's your heritage patch for the super fans. And you're almost on stage when you're sitting there, right? That's right at the action. So that's going to be brilliant. Keep going on the slides. So the auditorium, I challenge you to find the new bit. What we've actually done is we've put a corridor bridging across from one side to the other at the very back there. And we've brought the gallery seating down 2 extra rows over the top of that, moved the whole front of the gallery down, right? And pulled the balcony at first floor level forward, but you can't tell. And the architects have done a brilliant job seamlessly making that all work. So we get the accessibility improvements, we still get the capacity, and nobody notices the difference. It's a joy to work with these guys, it really is.
Is the sound and light desk going to be on the balcony, Neil?
Exactly where you can see it there, Gary.
Yeah, sound and light.
That's it, exactly, yeah. Can move on again? All right, so this is the bar I was saying. Used to store chairs and tables in here, but every day you come in, I mean, you wanted to be in the chair store. It was lovely with the sun coming in there, and you get a view of
Yeah.
So there's a space outside, which was the service yard, and weirdly, it had kind of 2 levels down to the basement, all broken steps and stuff. So we're putting in much better arrangements for that, for the building. It gets a new dock leveler, it gets a new stairs there, new lifts, etc. But we can put a balcony outside the bar, which then has the abbey to your left and the graveyard down the river, and it becomes a really nice spot, right? So so opening that up, that one of these beautiful things you can unlock, right? It's there, it's waiting to happen. You just need to find somewhere to put the chairs and tables. There you go. And then the next one is the top half above the digital studio. Is the dance studio, and we'll get this amazing space, because see all those big arched windows that you can see from the outside, which obviously light this volume. They never put any daylight into the North Minor bar because the suspended ceiling was underneath them, right? So they're now going to put their daylight into this room where we're putting in the extra floor, and this studio will have all that daylight now, which is brilliant.
So
all the detail in the architectures and the walls and the cornices and the ceiling, which has all been locked away for decades as well, you know.
So were they windows unseen from inside?
Aye. The suspended ceiling would be where the floor is, you know. Yeah. So, and then I think the next slide was just some dates, just to say that we've started, and actually contractor started on site on Monday there.
All right.
So it's full steam ahead. We're first steps on the mountain. Yeah.
How have these been affected by the COVID restrictions that we're all living under right now, or are you managing to schedule your program round about it?
No, to be honest, everything's been affected. Everything has been affected, but we worked really hard. We were, where we are, we were right at the point of selecting contractors for tender on a short list when COVID stopped us, and that meant that we had to restart that process. We couldn't just take what we had and go with it, so we had to restart that. Which just takes time. But I have to say, last summer and into the autumn, totally proved their case, did all our hard work. Actually, contractors dying to talk to us at that point, which was great. And got the job out to tender, got it back, now got it approved, and now we're started. So we couldn't have went any faster, if I'm honest. COVID wouldn't have allowed us to go any faster, but it's went like clockwork since then.
Yeah, so you're opening to be confirmed. How optimistic are you on that, Neil, with is that an estimate 2023 spring?
The stick I beat the guys with, Gary, says November 22. But that's to enable RL to do all the soft opening, and I'd imagine an official opening with whatever your big splash is will be the spring of the following year. But that's realistic and reasonable as well.
Who is it?
Who is it yet? I don't know. Who would you like it to be? I'm sure you could book as somebody seriously special.
Oh, the opening act, Gary. Is that who's going to open Paisley's new town hall?
Well, there's been
Maybe
a
that's
request.
a question of the week.
There is a request.
Oh, is there?
If I can find it. So some of the people that tune in here every week, part of our audience, found us through an Italian special that we did with Alfredo Nutini.
Okay.
So there's some people that tune in and stuck with us, and I can't find it, Andy. It's so far back. Oh,
there's recent.
It's so nice that all these people are saying the thing. I was really lucky. A couple of food festivals ago, I met Paolo, right? Graham McClatchy, who you'll know, introduced me to Paolo in the wee house, right? I was starstruck. It was beautiful. It was a lovely moment, and he was dead nice. And I honestly thought he's exactly the guy we need, right? Exactly the guy we need. But I'm not in charge of that. I'll just give you the building. Somebody needs to put him on.
Yeah. You know, in my experience, Neil, of Paisley people, being a special breed and almost being devoid of entertainment for years on their home patch. If it's of a good standard and it's in Paisley people turn out for it.
Oh yeah,
I think we love quality in Paisley, don't we? We love quality.
I'm not saying that it can be anybody that will open the town hall, but see if it's of a really decent standard, potentially a Heritage Act, people will support it, and it will set the mark. Because I know the ambition for the town hall is not just to be a venue for Paisley, but it's to be a venue for the west of Scotland.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think.
I was going to say we'll have a better offer than a lot of venues that are doing a good trade now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you're doing in the town hall is fantastic. You know, Paisley Community Trust have always been aware of it, but just to see it now moving on is great. Lots of suggestions coming in tonight in terms of who could potentially be opening it. Paolo obviously is a favourite one. You know, we're all very fond of Paolo, and I think actually was he not discovered in the town hall? Was there not an event on in the town hall and he stood in for the singing because somebody didn't turn up, and that was a big moment. So that would be nice for that to come full circle. I'm not sure what David Tennant. He might open it, but I don't know if he can hold a tune. Graham's obviously heard you singing, Neil, because
I don't think he has.
One of the regular spotlights is our very own Piero Piericini and his stories of spaghetti bolognese and tomato sauce. So a suggestion there for Councillor Devine. Paul Stewart's going old school on this one. Kelly Marie to open it up.
That would be good. She does a mean boom boom. She doesn't do a bong bong.
Does she do a bing bong?
Maybe you could play that on the bells. Right?
Well, absolutely. There was a couple of suggestions on the bing bongs earlier on. I think the "Oh When the Saints" was recommended by a couple of people, so it'd be great to see that coming on. But I think the work that you're undertaking at the town hall, it's fantastic, Neil, and it really will put Paisley on the map as an entertainment venue, and we've long advocated at Paisley Community Trust that the retail economy has changed in Paisley. Having Paisley is having both daytime and nighttime economies is really important. And what Gary just said, if there's stuff on in Paisley, people do come out, and that's really encouraging to see, because ultimately, as you know, what we're looking to do further up the high street is bring this particular project to light. And again, I'm very confident that if Paisley had a community focused cinema, that people would come to that as well. So lots to be excited about, and lots more on your plans, Neil. I'll get this back up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Neil, that it's interesting to see the interaction now with the different locations in and around the town that are looking to be reimagined, regenerated. So we've got our ambition for community cinema just up from the
Absolutely.
from the town hall that will link that to some work further up the high street we'll talk about in a minute. But of course, just outside the town hall and what's called the Abbey Quarter, there's plans for that as well.
We did recently have a consultation about this and explaining to people what we are looking to do. This was the old photograph that we dug out, which helps explain that, well, if I'm honest, right, the Abbey has been there for a very, very long time. But Abbey Close as a street, before the town hall, was very much a wee side street, a wee back street. And then when the town hall was rebuilt, they made everything else look bad. And they had to remodel Abbey Close as well, and this was the kind of the finishing moment of that. And I can't date this, but I think it's like before the First World War, but 1900 and something. And you can see the statues there as well, which were also reasonably new at the time. And that's a line where we had taken the road and we'd widened the road and made it a bit more grand because the town hall front door was there. And also it's by just simple fact of demolishing of the old derelict stuff on the other side, the whole Abbey gets framed, which I'm sure was a huge improvement and a huge impetus to get the rest of it built no long after. That it was just to set the scene right. We want to change this bit again, and really all that we want to change is broaden it onto the land where the demolished properties were, not the graves, where there's clearly graves in the burial ground section, which is the other side of the path. And I think I understand any sensitivity about that. I really do. And I think what we're looking to explain to people, we're remodeling the bit we can, right, where we're comfortable there are no graves, and where previously there were buildings. We're not extending beyond that into what I would class as the risky bit. But nonetheless, we've got a careful procedural approach here anyway. Nonetheless, but we're dead comfortable that this area can be provided. And what this
in that image there, Neil, I mean, you can see that, you know, where you've got the grassed area where the statues are, what you're effectively proposing is a reinstatement of that line that existed there. You know, effectively, it's effectively reinstating that line.
Can I say, Andy, in the consultation we were really lucky. We got great support and great comments. People asking very specific questions about statues and things, which I don't want to sound too smarmy, but it gave me the chance to explain it better, if you know what I mean. And the statues, they have a kind of prominence, which we want to allow them to still have, but that prominence is as a framing element. So just by broadening the space, the statues still have their prominence. They're still on the edge of the space, but now we've got enough space to do loads of other things. And you guys will know the festivals and the events that we have. That's exactly what we need in exactly that place.
And it also covers off an issue that probably was brought up in your consultation, Neil, about safety and access and egress during big events, which is a real concern, bottleneck area that as it currently stands.
Well, you know, it's not even easy to go onto the grass, Gary. And to be honest, see, for an equality of access, and you and I potentially in our wheelchair at some point wanting on that grass, I don't wish anything bad on you, Paul, but just by example, how do we get up and on there? So actually, between the seating areas, we want to kind of smooth it down and make it accessible. People are very fiercely defensive of the green, and they don't want folk treating it with any disrespect. And we're not seeking to encourage that either. But there is an equality of access here, and if I want to go on there because I'm interested in the old graves, I should be able to get on. So it's not encouraged.
Couple of questions coming in, Neil. Eddie's asking if the cunt ceiling's staying. Can you ask if the cunt ceiling's staying? It's beautiful. So I'm guessing that's pertaining to the ceilings within the town hall building itself, maybe the main space. But I guess it will be.
I'm saying it is, but can I tell you, we had a wee horror story in Renfrew Town Hall where when we finally got up there and could do the tap test on the plaster, quite eventually came down. Right? Oh dear. But nonetheless, all the detail that was there will be there when we're finished. Whether some of it came down and got put back.
Yeah. Right. And Les is asking about the moving of Tannehill's statue.
Indeed, strictly speaking, and Les will be even more on the ball on this than I am, but the statue hasn't been moved. And then when the D was built, it was built around the statue. So we want to move the statue back. But as I've tried to explain, to retain the same level of prominence and the same kind of respect that it has. But we don't believe that there's a body, right? And if there is a time capsule there, then we'll be on the lookout for it, and we'll get that at the time. But I think there's an issue about the careful moving of statues. We're definitely doing it the most careful way that we can. There'll be nothing. There'll be nothing fly by night about that.
Were you party to moving the cenotaph in Renfrew, in the square in Renfrew?
No, I wasn't. No,
I imagine a similar process, Neil. They moved the whole of it was quite a prominent, small cenotaph, but it was a statue-like structure, and it moved not too far, but at least it did move.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I do remember when we did the town hall. I remember helping out getting sphinxes put at the flower beds in Renfrew.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a smashing wee piece of work, actually. But at the time, didn't know what I was putting them on, if they would all sit together, if it could all go back together. It's a tricky exercise. We kind of know how hard it is. So we'll not be taking it lightly in any way.
Yeah, so absolutely. And just
the timeline for Abbey Quarter, Neil.
Sorry, right, my target there is for that to be done so that we can have a smashing opening of the town hall. You can imagine I don't want a building site on the front door there, so we're targeting that at the same time scale. Construction work by the end of November.
Did you get the same contractor, or is it different contractors?
No, it's not yet fully designed, Gary, and in fact we'll take it back to the public when it is.
Yeah, brilliant. And moving a wee bit further up the high street, and just in terms of some of because the town hall is one of the key heritage assets and centerpieces of Paisley. So it's great to see so much work and investment going into upgrading that, and I can't wait to get in for whichever gig is going to open it. But further up the high street, Renfrewshire Council and Renfrewshire Leisure are busy improving other areas as well. So do you want to talk us through this particular project, Neil?
Absolutely, and I'm watching time. I'll try and be quick. So this job actually it should have been going before now. It's been the most affected by the COVID stop because it's a complicated job as well. We had like the town hall, it's also now completed its advanced works. So all the stripping out and all the asbestos removal, which is a lovely exercise if you ever get involved in that.
Oh yeah.
Tricky, particularly involving demolition during a pandemic. That ended up quite tricky. So actually, this job's kind of ready to go, and the next slide explains it better than that first one. It's better to explain it in section rather than plan, right? The spaces, ex-retail and ground and first floor, and then really just derelict residential and storage space above that in the building. And it's had lumps knocked out of it in the past, whereby the top 2 stories was effectively put up in props, and they just gutted the rest, put a new structure in. So we've got lots of idiosyncrasies of the existing building, I'll put it that way, and we've had to fit in the very wide-ranging services offered through RL and library services because they've come out of the museum.
Correct.
Right? And so where they were at the very top of the high street, they're just coming down into the heart of the high street, and all the people who used to go up there hopefully will come to it here. And we get to reinvent certain things because I guess library services have changed with the times, and in fact they're more on the case than I am. If I'm honest, they're definitely not locked in any way. In the past, they're more advanced and more technologically savvy and connected than probably I have ever been. It's fascinating to see what library services will offer in the future. And this job is going to be a brilliant example of that, right on the high street.
Wow.
Again, really a positive place for all generations, right? See, I think the next couple of slides show a bit of interiors, right? So it's a bit plain just now, and we will be making better images, but quite a focus on children's library and getting them involved in it and telling a bit of a story through this. We've got an artist engaged in it as well to make sure there's a narrative runs through it. Children's learning about all sorts of things in a place where the database is, if you like, from their point of view, where the books are, where the images are, all of that. So some of it's a wee bit tailored towards them, but it's also it's trying to be really accessible and provide information to people, access to all sorts of services. So all distributed all through those 3 spaces. We've got lifts, obviously, right, everywhere. Are the workspaces that people will look to use, the research places, different collections, all sorts of interesting wee bits. It's smash, and couple of really good study spaces for different groups and age groups.
Brilliant.
Universities up the road.
Sneak preview of the timeline there. Your fingers crossed. Dovetailing in with everything opening at the same time.
Try and imagine my joy. Everything happening at the same time.
You're gonna have grey hair at the end of all this deal.
Yeah.
That's spring 2023 as well. My goodness.
You got
lots of things working hard.
a retirement plan, Neil?
If I can make it that far, do you think?
Where is it? June 2023.
I mean, it was just exhaustion, perhaps.
Right,
So it's
I've not seen the rest of the slides on this one, Neil, but I'm going to make a prediction. Does the completion date for works have got something to do with spring 2023 in this one as well?
Might do.
Andy,
What I've got here is this has not yet done its advanced works contract, so that's the one that will start later this year, and then our main works follows that up, and we don't complete this until January 23. So this one lands last of the 3 of them that we've looked at, and hopefully we've learned all the lessons from the other 2, and this one's the smoothest, but we'll see. Anyway, the interesting bit is this is an amazing wee building, by the way, amazing wee building, really old as well. 1820s, and actually it's kind of tucked away in the gardens there, almost hidden behind its fence. It's got a serenity that it doesn't ask for. Frankly, it's an art centre, right? It's not a church. So we can't drag the building to the street, so we're going to push the fence line back and make a bit more a plaza outside there, using space that's only paths and bushes at the moment anyway. No graves, although we do have, and we did have an appeal out to the public for anybody with ancestors buried there, just in case they were worried about where we were digging or anything like that. We've got a plan. We know where we have to dig, what we have to do, and it's not a big extension. It's an extension that does a particular job. It extends what was far too small a cafe. I don't know if you remember, but it was like far too small a cafe in there, and it allows, when we've maximised the capacity, we've got 150 seats in here, right, which is brilliant. Total brand new seats as well. It allows us to have the space that you need to service the 150 people. Do you know what I mean? So the bar needs to be big enough for folk to get a drink beforehand and whatever. So we're not blowing the scale out of the water. We're trying to be careful working with this beautiful building. And you were talking earlier about preserving green spaces, right? Yeah. Sometimes we have to work a wee bit harder just to be preserved. So we're taking the front here. We're making that work as an entrance for the space, but we're totally keeping every other bit of green, right?
Yeah. The thing I find interesting about that, Neil, is the observation related to the fence, and it does feel like a barrier, particularly when you're inside it and there's like banners on it.
Yeah.
The fence itself is a barrier, and there's banners go up on it, and it feels like you're kind of saying to your audience, "Don't come in."
It feels like a trick, Gary. It's like just pushing the fence back changes your whole perception of where that building is and where the entrance is for a start, right? So. Yeah. So we like this very much. We think this is going to work. Actually, we're going to take away the roadside barriers. See the ones that go along. You can never get across the road in that junction.
Yeah.
Aye.
We recognise there's quite a lot of traffic, but pedestrians come first, surely, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to ask a question here, Neil, which is all right in project terms. That fence, the angles, are you actually putting in that fence, or is that not going in?
No, it's going in.
Is it? Is it going to be temporary? Can it be moved?
No, it's going to be going in permanently.
Okay. The only reason I'm asking is that wee green bit there is actually quite a good space for gigs as well.
It is. And what you'll have a mixture, right? If you've maybe seen the small shop being held at the other side, and where the big trees are, right? And because they needed a bigger space and fireworks and all that need more space. Yeah. We'll now have effectively a hard landscape and a green spot here at this venue, where you could have one or the other, you can have the whole thing, but the fence line gives us a permanent boundary. You'll understand that for a day-to-day operation for RL working there, they've got a garden that's within their licensed area, if you like.
Yeah, okay.
Outside that, beyond it. Not to say that they wouldn't then extend into that as well if they've got a big enough thing on. And I imagine that you maybe can be booking people for this wee venue as well, right? It's cracking. cracking spot.
It's a cracking space. I know it isn't up in the bar up at the top. Are you opening up that window in the bar at the top to be a viewing point?
No, it doesn't. No. When we've changed the capacity, we've improved the accessibility. So we've even got wheelchair spaces up on the first floor, if you like, that access into the auditorium. Well, that's pulled the wall back. So the room that's behind that window isn't quite the same size of room that it was before. But we are going to use it as a multifunction bookable space, right? Yeah. So that'll be, if you've got a meeting booked, you can have it in that room. If you've got a club, they can be in that room. And it's going to be a nice space. The window's brilliant. It's not the best in it.
Oh, I like those dates. Like those dates, Neil. Spring 2023.
Spring 23, yeah.
It's all going to be happening for 2023. I mean, look, some brilliant comments in tonight. I think, where was it? There's Liam posted in a comment, really good ideas. Definitely what Paisley needs, looking forward to those. But the reality is, Liam, and you can back me up on this one, is they're not just ideas. These are happening. This is all happening. It's underway, which is brilliant. All the funding has been approved. All the contractor process is underway. So this is all happening.
So what's about to happen in Paisley, Neil, is we're swapping our face masks for hard hats. All the residents of Paisley are being given a hard hat and a high vis.
But do you know what? See, in the last few months, there's been a ton of stuff getting done. A lot of infrastructure work, things going under the pavements, digging up roads, moving things around. So you might not feel that unfamiliar, to be honest.
Yeah. It's going to be great, and some fantastic comments coming in on social media. Mags mentioning about I guess this is in the arts centre. The seating was quite. When you were along at the Pace Band.
I was the test for the leg room. Clear legs. I was the test for leg room. So we've got brand new seats, bigger leg room.
Yeah. And I've got breaking news, Andy.
What's that?
Paul Stewart, a sensible comment.
Don't be surprised by that. Paul does put sensible comments. We'll have our own City of Culture in 2023, and that's really encouraging.
Great, Neil. Okay, I mean, that's a fantastic showcase of.
Really, thanks for letting me come on and talk about it. Honestly, it's brilliant to hear some of the comments. Really nice to see people are looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, Neil, what you can do is you can obviously, jump onto Facebook and look through the comments at your leisure. It's clear. I mean, this is the thing that we love doing what we're doing, because, Paisley community is so supportive of seeing the town improve. Paisley Community Trust, what we're doing is so involved in wanting to lend a hand and shine a spotlight on the improvement of the town. It's great to see the council. It's great to see that Renfrewshire Leisure leading the way on these heritage asset projects. We look forward to the community-driven projects playing a part of that as well. But the good thing is, that if you do stuff, there are audiences out there that are ready to buy tickets for the gigs, that are ready to use the bars, the cafes, go and watch the movies, go and watch a gig or a comedian on at the Arts Centre or whatever it might be. And then, of course, there was talk about Spiegel Tent and some of the events that we put on in the public realm spaces. And folks, Paisley is on the up. The work that's been undertaken is so vital, so important. And boy, set your clocks for 2023, because it's going to be a cracking year.
I'll be in the hospital.
I think to reinforce that, Andy, and to back that, I think, I don't know if it's been noticed about Paisley being ahead of the curve, Neil. But we really have been ahead of the curve. The groundwork that's been done in Paisley over the years, it probably started town centre context anyway. For me, noticing it when Arnott's Little Woods and the ears starting to prick up about, look, something needs to be done here. Might not have been immediate, but I know there was a lot of work and a lot of groundwork getting done in the background that's now obviously coming to fruition in 2023. And Andy, we'll need to sharpen our pencil.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A few folks are talking about Chat Show 2023. What might that be like? We were even suggested as opening up the town hall. It could be the Andy and Gary Chat Show opening up as well. Who knows what the future's got, Neil? But Say, what bing bongs are you going
to?
Bing bongs. There's a new idea for some merch coming in, Andy, with the bing bongs.
Oh, the chat show bing bongs.
Chat show bing bongs. Get your alarms. It'll be a chat show bing bong.
And also, Neil, this show does go out. We mentioned our friends that join us from around the globe, and there's Mark commenting that he's looking forward to be able to jump on a Qantas flight from Australia to come back home in spring 2023. So we do reach an international audience. Goodness knows what time it's over there, but tuning in to see all the good stuff that's happening in the town, and how encouraging is what we've heard tonight.
Yeah, that's terrific. It's been terrific, Neil. And one thing I will say, that it's different noticing what's going on in and around the town and seeing it popping up here and there, to actually being presented to you, and it's presented so well. So I want to thank you. Really, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight and presenting the exciting developments and redevelopments in Paisley Town Centre.
Thanks a lot. Thanks,
Neil. Thanks so much, sir. Catch you soon.
On, Neil.
Cheers now. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, is that not just so encouraging to see all the fantastic work that's going on? Gary, I know we're way over our usual slot time tonight already, but there's so much going on, and people have to know.
People have to. I think what I said there, Andy, about groundwork, I think that's so important, that Paisley has been ahead of the game with groundwork.
Yeah.
And it get mentioned to us the other week about some of the stuff that's coming up, and by the way, there's Paisley Community Trust. Look at the groundwork they've did.
Yeah.
So the pain we've went through with groundwork, that's called groundwork. The pain that the council and Renfrewshire Leisure and all their teams, and their design teams and project teams have all went through, are getting us to a place that post-COVID, spring 2023, all that groundwork is going to be water under the bridge, and it's going to be amazing. The town centre is going to be a fantastic place to be. Retail's gone, and that leisure focus is going to be there, and we're right ahead of the game.
Absolutely. I mean, just and we know it's been a crappy year with COVID, and we know that there's works underway. So we've got 2021, 2022 to see out into 2023. But we can do it. We're patient, and there'll be a lot of activity underway. But you imagine turning up in the Paisley Town Centre. You've got the magnificent Abbey. You've got the newly regenerated Town Hall. You can pop across to Pendulum for a bite to eat. You can walk up the High Street. You've got some selected small retail going on. You've got cinema that we're looking to bring. You've got the new developments that are planned for the Paisley Centre and Marks and Spencer's. Those will be getting redeveloped in that timeline. You walk a little bit further up, you've got the new educational hub and library that Neil talked about. You get further up again and all the way up to the museum and the new extension. Then you go up to Coates and all the activity that's undertaken. Just in that sort of, I don't even know what that is as a mile, but something like that distance-wise. Just think of the enhancement to Paisley's town. We should be really proud. We've waited for long enough, and it's great to see the corner being turned, and we're delighted to support this project, and we're delighted at all the support that we get for our own project, Paisley Community Trust, Pixels, our cinema project. So
thanks everyone for your positive comments and questions tonight. Thanks for joining in and giving Neil a warm welcome and enthusiastic comments. Neil's a cracking guy, as well as being a very, very good and enthusiastic advocate for the town and project manager. So you nearly set him up earlier, Andy, with saying, and I look forward to seeing all the great work you're about to do. And just going to stop short of saying that, but I'm sure it's all going to work out. And between now and the release of the COVID situation and us coming back out into the town, I think it's maybe on a note of closing, Andy.
Yes.
Before you go queuing around the block for Starbucks, Costa's, Greg's, Burger King, KFC and McDonald's, remember these huge fast food companies will be fine after lockdown. Spend your money with local cafes and takeaways who who are fighting to stay in business every single day. Support our local economy by supporting local businesses.
And on that encouraging note, Gary, have we talked about what's coming on next week, or will we keep it as a surprise?
We'll keep it as a surprise because it is.
It's 9:35. We'll just warm up for the 24-hour marathon.
Aye, we are a bit. We've all run or overrun, but I'm sure that was a welcome show tonight, and I hope you, the viewer, enjoyed that. And please look out for question of the week.
Absolutely. All the best, folks. Have a good evening. See you next week. Good night now.